In the summer of 2001, Russell, a dad of 5, waved goodbye to his family before going to work. Little did he know, something sinister in his home would soon change his life forever. The story began in the late 80s when Russell met the love of his life, Andrea. The two shared similar Catholic beliefs, which eventually resulted in their marriage 4 years later. Soon after tying the knot, the couple began thriving together, with Russell focusing on his engineering job at NASA and Andrea working as a registered nurse. To most, their life looked perfect from the outside. They had high-paying jobs, a house, and good careers. It was as complete a life as anyone could hope. They had everything, but there was still something that they wanted. Russell and Andrea had their first child in 1994. At that time, they had decided they would have as many kids as possible because that is what their belief said. Unfortunately, they had no idea that with every child, they were also giving birth to something would soon ruin their family. Russell and Andrea had 3 more kids after their first one. However, their lives only got worse with each birth. While most similar families would be full of joy, laughter, and cries, their little family of 6 was full of silence and impending doom. In 1999, Russell saw the first mark of the demon that had set itself in their home. He returned from work to realize his wife, Andrea, had chewed her fingers off. As if the unsettling view of her bloody mouth with wounded hands wasn't enough, Russell would soon find his wife begging him to let her die. Was it just stress? Was she possessed? Or was it something more sinister? Before Russell could comprehend that, Andrea would attempt suicide the next day, leading her to the hospital. There, the doctors examined her condition and concluded something was wrong with her brain. They put her on heavy antipsychotic medication, hoping for the best. While most of the treatment seemed fine and normal for such a case, one particular thing stood out. For some reason, the doctors warned Andrea not to have children again, stating that it wouldn't be good for her. Over the next few weeks, the drugs did wonders, as Andrea soon recovered and was back to her usual self. She began participating in family celebrations, was visibly happy, and seemed good. For the first time in years, Russell and Andrea's family was normal again, and things looked bright. But you know what they say, all good things must come to an end. After a few days of living a happy and normal life, Russell and Andrea would make the biggest mistake of their life. They'd decide not to follow the doctor's warnings and have another child, thinking that it would only expand their happiness. In early 2001, Russell and Andrea welcomed their last baby together, making them a family of 7. Unfortunately, but as expected, the baby's birth also came with major problems for Andrea, who began suffering from the same issues again. From self-mutilation to obsession with her religion, Andrea was in a near catatonic state. This leads us to the summer of 2001, when Russell waved goodbye to his family before going to work. Little did he know, his wife, Andrea, was not herself anymore. Soon after Russell left, Andrea entered her bathroom and began filling her bathtub with water up to the brim. She then grabbed her kids and started drowning them, till they couldn't anymore. After Andrea murdered 4 of her kids, she drowned her eldest son in the bathtub and left his body in there. Soon after, Andrea called the police, admitting to her crime. This tragedy is one of the most gruesome cases of what is today known as postpartum depression. Andrea, who had a history of untreated mental problems, further fell into this psychological condition and didn't know better. Her husband, Russell, blinded by his faith, thought that building his family bigger was the solution for their happiness. On that tragic day, the police mentioned 5 casualties in its report. But in reality, it was clear that it was the death of the entire family of 7. Soon after the incident, Russell and Andrea divorced, but the NASA engineer supported his former wife in court. At that time, Russell tried to tie a knot with another woman but couldn't make that relationship last. After all, who can ever live a normal life after such a tragedy? As for Andrea, the prosecutors felt that she deserved the worst punishment for her crimes. However, the court decided not to sentence her to death because of her insanity. The mid-aged woman was sent to a mental health treatment facility, where she remained institutionalized for her life. While Andrea got to live, some people might say that she got a punishment worse than death, as she got to exist every day knowing what she did to her family and kids.